Good evening and welcome to the October 8th, 2014 Falmouth Conservation Commission hearing. On tonight's agenda, before we start, I'm going to make a little announcement. 96 Old Main was originally it's going to be tonight, but it's actually next week.
Yes.
It's going to be on the 15th.
Correct.
And there's a revised
Butter notification that
butter
went.
notifications that have gone out. So if anyone appears during the hearing, we will do our best to let them know that that will be October 15th for the 96 Old Main Road project. Moving on. Request for continuance under notice of intent, Town of Falmouth Beach Committee, 295 Quaker Road. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance until our next available date, which will be October 29th. 29th.
So moved.
Second.
We have Russell's motion and Mary's second. And this is for DEP things and all that.
Yes, they're still waiting for a DEP number.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Request for continuance under an amended order of conditions, Black Beach Harbor Head Association, Little Neck Bars Road, Black Beach Hills Road, and yada yada going on.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance until October 29th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's Russell's motion. Mary's second. Is there any other discussion on the board about this continuance? Is there any discussion from the audience about this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Another request to continue an enforcement hearing for 62 English Street, East Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property owner contacted me after they received our letter. They were unable to attend tonight's hearing, so they requested a continuance until October 15th, and the staff told them that would be fine. So it's next week.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's Mary's motion and Mario's second. And any other discussion on the board about that? Is there any discussion in the audience about that? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Next is request for determination of applicability. This is the lesser of the two permits that will be discussed tonight. This is one that staff goes out and reviews the projects and then makes a recommendation and advises the board. First up, and what you want to hear is a negative determination, because that means that your project can go forward without further permitting involved. First up, 69 Sippowisset Road, Falmouth, Mass. for permission to install a new girt supported by 4 wooden posts on 4 new concrete footings and to install new dry wells to connect to existing downspouts.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project and we're recommending a -2 in the state and bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
This is a theme tonight. Russell's motion and Mary's second. Is there any discussion on the board?
What's a girt?
A girt is a carrier for, it's a support piece of laminated pieces like you'd see in the center of a house. It's can be of different types of materials, just put together. It's going to carry other floor joists on top of it.
Okay.
I have that same question.
Is there any further discussion on the board?
The only silly question is the question not asked.
How true is that? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 75 T-Ticket Path, East Falmouth, Mass. for permission to pump, fill, and abandon the existing cesspool, install a new 4-inch sewer line from the garage to the house, and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project and we're recommending a -2 under the bylaw, -3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
That would be Mike's motion Mayor, second. Is there any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 123 Alder Lane, North Falmouth, for permission to construct a 4-bedroom, single-family house with an attached garage, deck, porches with stairs, sunroom to install a Title V sewage disposal system, walkway, catch basin, and leaching pit, outdoor shower, landscape wall, driveway, water service, utilities, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project. We're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area value is not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Mary's motion, Mike's second. Is there any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion from the audience on this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is a continued request for determination of applicability. 80 Eel River Road, East Falmouth, Mass., for permission to construct new decks, a rinse station, access stairs, pergolas, install a dry well, expand the existing deck and the associated excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we've reviewed the project. We're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area value is not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Russell's motion, Mike's second. Is there any other discussion on the board about this project? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Now, before we get on to this continued for hearings under a notice of intent, all hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So I'm just going to change my name. First is 295 Quaker Road, which was continued. And after that is 58 Davis Road, East Falmouth, Mass., for permission to remove the existing shed and construct a 1-bedroom addition with stairs, attached garage, deck expansion to extend the driveway, install a trench drain, dry wells, native tree and shrub mitigation plantings, remove a tree and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Okay, it's Russ, Tom, Mike, Mary, and John. Mary, you're not on this form?
I'm Tom Bunker.
Hi, Tom.
Tom Bunker with BSS Design. I really didn't know if Jen was going to say something. We were continued last week so that Jen could talk with Jack Vaquero, who flagged the wetland, to see if this isolated wetland here is a vernal pool. Of course, this is the wrong season for determining such a thing. Jen could explain the condition of the environs of the pool by the neighbor. Well, there's some, from this lot, there's some dumping of refuse, but from the other lot, wood chips, and it's a kind of degraded wetland buffer. Jen talked with the owner, Mark Silphone, while out there, and suggested a few things, and one was to wait until spring to determine if it is in fact a vernal pool. Another would be to, move the garage out of this, what could be the A zone for the vernal pool. And the third would be the possibility of putting in more planting, which I think Jen told me would be basically planting roughly up to that area, which would be about 3,200 square feet. Mark Silphone, at this time, given 1 day to think about it, just talked to him yesterday, or maybe it was on Tuesday. Right now, didn't want to commit to doing all that planting, thought I'd come in and see what the thinking of the board is. If it's something where there's highly degraded habitat all around there. If it were to be a vernal pool, is it worth protecting? Do we have to wait till the spring to find that out? Can we go ahead with it as is? I think Jen probably has some ideas on all of this. There was one option I floated to her just this afternoon, where there's a possibility, is it possible to say it's okay to do it this way? If it comes spring, if it turns out to be a vernal pool, then more planting would be required. That's some things, and generally, unless you all seem as though, yeah, you're going to go ahead and just approve it this way, I think probably be requesting a continuance for a couple more weeks so that the owner has time to think about it. But I'd like to see what, just hear some discussion.
Okay, I did have a discussion, remember last week, we couldn't conclusively say, I did have a discussion Friday with Jack Picaro, who went out and looked at the pool. He can't conclusively say either way. It's just wrong time of year to evaluate whether or not it is a vernal pool. Looking at the pool itself, it could possibly be a vernal pool, and then it might not. It might not support that type of, those types of critters. That said, if it is a vernal pool, your regulations don't let you move any closer than the present primary structure. As Tom said, I did have a discussion with the property owner in the field on Monday. We happened to go out and look at it one more time, and the options that I proposed were wait until the spring so we can determine whether it is or not, and then the board can determine whether or not they would need to redesign their project because it wouldn't technically meet your regulations. 2, redesign it anyway and move the proposed addition to the south side of the house. Or 3, that the board may consider a much more enhanced buffer as an offset. I didn't say it was an option. I said, it's going to be up to the board, but that's something he could possibly propose. There isn't a lot of habitat in that area. As you can tell from the plan, it's houses on one side and houses on the other. Honestly, that's where I am right now. Those are the 3 options that the staff has come up with. I mean, you can't tell this time of year, so, and you either go on the assumption that it's not, go on the assumption that it is. I mean, there's just really no way to tell this time of year. It's biological indicators, and we just can't do it.
Well, does anybody want to step into it first?
I have a question for
Sure.
Jen. What's your reaction to Mr. Bunker's proposal about?
And Tom did tell me that proposal, staff would, and as I told Tom, we're a little uncomfortable with that because it would put I don't want to get into a situation where it is being built. It does come up, it is determined to be a vernal pool, and then if the property owner at that point decides they don't want to do the planting, then we're just put in a very awkward situation.
Mm-hmm.
Tom did say, we could withhold occupancy, but it's a currently occupied house. I mean, so I'm a little uncomfortable with the checks and balances there.
Yeah.
And I discussed that with Tom.
Yeah.
And if I can, go ahead, Mike.
Part of a vernal pool is, I believe, is hydraulics.
It is one of them, yep. It can be groundwater fed, spring pool.
Is it a requirement for it to be groundwater fed?
I have to
No.
double check, but I
I
don't
think it'd be
so,
runoff
yeah.
fed. I know there's
Yeah.
one up in
Yeah.
Sibawissett that's a perched
Yeah.
pool basically, but I mean, isn't the biggest criteria that has to have
It's
the
biological indicators.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a pretty low water table on it. And
Yeah.
I didn't know if it, driving a single well point by hand. would give you some indication of where the water table is, and then take a look at where it could go and help you with the hydraulics, looking for, some way to move this thing along.
When the board's been faced with this type of situation before, it's been a little different. We haven't had somebody wanting to, or haven't had an applicant propose something that moves closer. So if it's kind of a gray area and it's the wrong time of year, we always just go under the assumption that it is a vernal pool, and therefore you need to meet those requirements. But we haven't really been faced with a situation where the regulation would actually prohibit that, what they wanted to do, off the top of my head.
I have another question mainly for Jen, I guess. Did the regulations, is there any reason why we couldn't continue it until spring? I'm not
No,
sure
not
that
at
your
all.
applicant, your client would want to do that, but is that a possibility?
That's absolutely a possibility. And Tom and I discussed that all. I would ask is that Tom, come closer to the hearing, resubmit his plans, because I'm not quite sure all of you will be able to hang on to your plans for that long. Some of you will, some of you won't. I won't mention which on each end.
Tom, the applicant is under the understanding, I want to be clear on that if it is a vernal pool, what you had offered, one of your solutions, was that you share the notice, and if it's a vernal pool, you extend the planting.
If it's a vernal pool, it would be up to the board to, I think as Jen said, it might have to make findings that the existing habitat is so degraded that putting in a lot of plantings would improve the habitat enough to offset
The development of the lot.
the development of the lot. So,
Okay.
I mean,
They understand that that's what the board would do. If that was issued at that point. You had made mention that we're partial to the backyard, the fire pit, the fireplace, all that. The activities there, and I can understand that, that's their active yard.
Yeah.
They've already mitigated or proposed native shrubs and stuff in that lower area. I don't have a real strong, this is no reflection on the applicant, but it's too open-ended for myself to be able to issue something, and if it is and then we come back. I don't see that, and selfishly, it's for us to be able to protect ourselves and consistency. I would suggest, my impression, if this was my project, I would want a little more time to discuss this with the client. If it's only 2 days old in their mind on what's the new information that they've been brought and certain options, I would be more than happy to entertain a continuance just for the fact of being able to really put a lot of things on the shelf and look at, and you have be a brief, and we're going to have more discussion if necessary, but you have an idea where the board's going to stand on this already. I truly believe that. As Mary May mentioned, a continuance to the spring.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think, we would start with a 2 or 3 week continuance, just so they have time to think about it, but ultimately it could be continued until spring.
Staff's comfortable with that. We wouldn't want them to say, no, you have to continue it to the spring. If they want to digest what's going on, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
I was trying to come up with options, when we were out in the field, and, it's yes, no, or up to the board whether they want, so.
Because still,
I get that, and I'd be fine with that. Would the 29th work for you? I give them
Almost
I give them
Halloween.
like 2.5 weeks. Is that enough time?
do we have to wear costumes or anything?
That's optional.
No,
Courtney was here maybe, but he's not, so.
but bring candy.
I think we did have a hearing once on Halloween, didn't we?
We did.
Yes,
Yeah, we did.
We did.
I can
We did. We can show up in costume.
Courtney always threatened to bring coal.
Yeah, he's a cold guy. Would 29th give you enough time,
Stuff at the
and then
beginning.
enough time to kind of understand what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that then. And then if you need to continue it again, Tom, that's fine.
Jeff,
Yes, sir?
just looking at that plan, if we propose something like elevation 20 as the, south of that being the new planting, giving them some area across behind to be sure that works, and I think everybody wins.
On elevation 20 though, that would only give you, oh, I see where it's going.
It extends, it widens out, it kind of gives them a little bit more closer to the building.
Oh, I see what you're
Expands
saying.
out
Yeah,
more.
that's fine. I was just
You know what
trying to
I'm
make
saying,
it easy with the limit work kind of going across. It was really kind of a,
Rather than straight
I was
across.
trying to,
Yeah,
The elevation 20.
yeah, that'll give you,
I was trying to find workable options.
Fire pit's still gone, but,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's-
yeah, but
yeah, well,
fire pits can,
That can move. That looks like
they have legs,
that-
and they,
It might be
Yeah.
difficult to move it, but it could shift. I think it looks like it was handmade there, so.
Murray,
Just one comment. Rather than waiting till spring to ascertain whether this is a vernal pool or not, this time of the year you can do what they call a facultative dry pool inventory. Basically, it's looking for aquatic invertebrates in the mud. It looks as though this is muddy, but there's no standing water. Fingernail clams, caddisfly larvae, let's see what else. There's a number of them listed.
Tell
If
Jack to
you-
look into that.
So, I mean, I don't know if that could move things along to do
Possibly.
do a dry pool inventory this time of the year. Fairy shrimp, another one. But you'd have to get somebody in there who knows their aquatic invertebrates, so this is not,
Yeah, I mean, you can't just have anybody. Mark and I went down there, we didn't see any caddisfly cases because we looked. But I mean, we didn't go down in our hands and knees and look either. It was, quick, take a peek. So if you want to have someone look at that, Tom, that might be an option.
mhm.
bless you.
thank you.
Probably the 3 weeks is still enough time if he's gonna do
When we
that.
get to that point, you can continue it again.
I would entertain a motion.
at the request,
Unless you want to go to December now or no?
November.
Oh, the next would be November, I think.
Being November, well,
We don't have many meetings, we're short 2 meetings.
yeah, we have the 5th and the 12th open maybe right now.
I can't remember
We
why.
definitely, we don't have the 19th and 26th open. We definitely have December 3rd open.
Yeah, the last 2 we don't.
Do you want to just stick with the
I'll
29th and
stick
see
with-
how far you get with that? Okay, we'll do that.
The request of the applicant, move to continue this hearing till October 29th,
Second?
There's a motion, Mike second.
for now.
Any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion from the audience on this project? Yes, ma'am, if you could come up and just identify yourself at the podium.
Hi, I'm Sandra Feynman Silva, 50 Davis Road. I live next door to the property on the same side as the proposed addition, and I have lived there for more than 10 years. I have seen wildlife in the neighborhood. There was a turtle that came out of the wetlands, a large snapper. It crossed the street and laid an egg under the neighbor's porch. There was a fox that had kids under my shed, had a litter of babies under my shed. There are wild turkeys. So there is an environment that attracts wildlife. And I would, as the abutting neighbor, I know the property, I live there. Unfortunately, this addition is crowding out my yard and will create quite a large visual landscape of building in addition to the large visual landscape of building that's already there. I'm not sure what this elevation 20 had to do with the project. I'd like an explanation of that. But I'd also, the one proposal that isn't being discussed or offered is to move the project to the other side of the property where they already have their theoretical driveway. That was already on the plan, I guess, originally when they built this house several years ago. That would solve their problem. That would solve the problem of the vernal pool. I'm not in favor of the proposal that they do a dry pool inventory, and have, the architect and the owner decide what's in there. I don't think that's fair. If it's a vernal pool and we're going to decide it's a vernal pool, then we need a legitimate scientific way of making that determination. That's fair to everybody, including the environment. I'm a neighbor and I'm being crowded out by this proposal. I did write a letter to Mr. Bunker's office asking for some considerations in terms of a fence, a nice fence, and making sure that the driveway runoff, it's going to be a tar driveway, so there will be runoff, that it doesn't go into my yard. I have nice gardens that I like, and I don't want them to be messed up by gasoline or whatever is in that driveway. The family already has 4 automobiles, or sometimes 6 automobiles there all year. So it's a very active yard, but I don't want it to affect my property. I don't want it to pollute my property, or I don't want there to be a lot of noise that's emanating if the garage is going to be used for industrial storage or for the storage of their business. I don't think that's fair in a residential neighborhood. So I do hope that the committee will make sure that what's being done is appropriate. I know they have a fire pit out there. I hear the fireworks. I don't think that it's a big inconvenience for them to have to move their fire pit if that's what has to be done. But there are other options that have not even been proposed this evening that could, if they want to build this, immediately, that they could do that.
If I could answer a couple things for you, and that can be corrected by anybody who wants to jump in. I think one of the first things you said, that moving the project to the side, that actually was brought up on site with the homeowners, that moving it over to the south side. Mm-hmm. That was one of the options that was suggested at that time. The elevation 20, if you look on that plan right in front of you, the grades that come up, they start in increments. And
Yes.
the line that comes to the 20 elevation, that goes all the way across the plan,
Okay.
right? That's just a point of reference to give them, so instead of just making a line across it, we're using a natural contour that is a little bit further away on one part of the house, but then actually gets wider. That contour goes all the way across.
Right.
So that it creates more of we're looking at it as more of depth of buffer and plantings on one side to create something more
Okay, so
substantial.
that would be the location of the buffer,
Correct. And
the
then-
limit of the buffer. Okay.
Right, on the original hearing, there was someone that had brought up some of your concerns as well.
I was at a meeting in Boston, I couldn't get here.
Yeah, and they addressed, I hope we addressed, there's a trench drain that's proposed, because they are responsible for any of the activities on their lot. They have to contain things. They can't have runoff going to your
Right.
yard or to other areas as well. So any of the runoff in that those activities are gonna be controlled for our own purposes, but it is also for your benefit. The dry pool will be conducted by the same person that would do the other. It's not done by the architect or the homeowner. It's done by a wetlands engineer. And that inventory,
Right, I would
we
assume
take
it would
testimony
have to.
by that professional all the time. So we rely on these gentlemen, like the two engineers that are here now. Their scope of work is on the presentation of it. The person that's doing that inventory, that's what their profession is. That's why we have only so many people that do that. We just don't take someone's word for it. It has to be quantified by a specialist.
Yes, and I
So-
would expect that it would be.
Okay, so hopefully that alleviates some of your concerns, at least gives you some good information. Where this is being continued, I don't know what the dynamics of your relationship with your neighbor are, but Mr. Bunker now knows directly some of your
Yeah.
concerns, and that maybe,
No, I think he heard them from my friend Mary a couple
Okay,
weeks
so-
ago as well.
well, hopefully,
I mean, I wasn't even informed by my neighbors that they were going to even be doing this, even though we talked about the trees that they were cutting down
Well, you should have been
3 weeks ago.
notified with a butter notification.
I did, I was notified by written notification on September 16th. And that was the first I ever heard of this project.
Well, that's a start, you know, and
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers that you may need, but I hope that you're able to get more than that. Some of the vista and the spacing of things, that's out of our purview, as much as we can be
Right. No, I
sensitive
know.
for it.
I know that.
I was keeping a mental list on your questions, and I hope that I answered or gave you some information on most of those. If anyone else has anything to add to that, I'm up for it. And we have continued, we will be taking a vote on this to continue to October 29th. In that time frame, if there's more things, if you write them down and maybe express them to Mr. Bunker, and hopefully forge a good relationship and help with the solution that we will receive.
Okay. Now, one problem I do have, if it's continued to the following Wednesday, I am going to be in Salem. I cannot get back here for that evening meeting, if it has to be continued another week.
It'll be continued to October 29th.
No, I know, and if that isn't going to work, the impression was that it would be continued again.
And, but that date is in, we don't know what that future date would be.
Okay.
On the 29th, they would either request something I would believe long-term, or there'd be such a change in the plan that we would actually review it. That's my hope, is that we have no other continuances, but a project that would be reviewed.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion from the audience? Is there any other discussion on the board? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. Next is request to amend the existing order of conditions.
Thank you, Tom.
First is 281 Edgewater Drive West, East Falmouth. A request to amend the existing order of conditions to expand the house footprint, add roof overhang, reconfigure the deck, expand mitigation plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen, do you have anything at this
I'll
time?
save any of my questions until after Mike's.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, John and Peg Forbes. You issued an order of conditions to them to do a tear-down reconstruction of the existing house. And that order was issued back in January of 2013. And some time went by, they weren't ready to embark on the project because they had another property that they wanted to sell first. They were still working up the final architectural drawings. Time went by. They did end up in a position that they could go forward, and they refined the layout of the house with an architect. And they refined it in a way that, while very, very much the same in area and general configuration, it was different. So I went to see Jen to see if it was possible to administratively review it, and she thought it had changed enough that we should come back for an amendment. So we're here for that. The house is no closer to any wetland resources than the one that you approved back in January of 2013. It's just slightly different, and I mean, I have, I don't know if you can see this, but this is what was approved. It's a little wider and not quite as long as this one, but it's basically effectively, very similar. The deck's a different shape. So we think it still meets the spirit of what you approved and issued an order on originally. We recalculated the impervious surface calcs and provided the required mitigation, dry wells, limited work, and the other things. The septic system is to be upgraded, and it's out near the street and beyond 100 feet from any wetland resources. And that pretty much sums up the request for amendment, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
Mike, when you say it didn't move closer, didn't you switch the staircase to the front of it though? You shifted the staircase, right?
You mean the staircase from the deck?
Yes. Switched it from the side. Mike and I did this exercise downstairs today. If you put it on a light table, that blue line where you have your addition, before you have your little light colored deck, that was your old deck.
Right.
And then you come back. So that, are you saying that it doesn't move any closer because you're shot off of that salt marsh and that 31 point?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The
Yeah.
distance to mean high water at the closest point was 31 on the original design, and it's still 31 on this design. This design had more deck over here, and it had a stairwell because they were trying to create not have a bulkhead and create a stairwell outside. It wasn't a walkout, so that's no longer part of the plan. So I just thought, in my mind, it didn't move any closer to the wetlands. That was engineered.
But you took some of your mitigation plantings out from the buffer closest to the wetland and smushed them up on the side because you needed your 10-foot clearance between the deck and the thing. So
Yeah.
the board's losing about, like 4 or 5 feet of width in that buffer. Put it up on a light table.
Yeah, I know.
We don't either. We were using my door window. It took Mike and I and then Melanie and I to hold up the plans to do it.
The darker green was the mitigation on the original, this light green is the mitigation now. So
I mean, you meet the regs because you have them, you do have them in there. And you said that you are calculating the overhang, because it says on your existing that you calculated the overhang on the existing.
Yep.
So just to double check you're calculating.
Yep.
And your trees, are those evergreens up there, way up there?
All the way in the road?
1, 2, yeah. Almost in the road land? No, I'm kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding. Up your evergreens, Mike. Look at you see your green dots where your dry wells are?
yes.
That one there it is. Those are your trees that you're proposing?
Right on the border.
Or are those existing? I'm
They're
sorry.
existing.
Oh, those existing.
we're
Are
not
you
cutting
proposing
any
any trees?
No, because we're not cutting any trees.
Well, what about the mitigation? Gotcha. So you'll just have to add a couple of
Always
trees for
forget
that.
that, right?
It's okay. Mary would have caught on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would have been abused by Betsy.
Yeah.
She was,
You would.
she's probably watching, so.
No, but I just got a
Jen's out of
text.
town. You're safe.
Oh,
Um,
I always forget that one. I'm happy to add a tree. We have places we can plant. and
Yeah,
maybe
we'll
I'll-
work with you on that. Okay, we'll work with you on that. You'll probably need 2 trees, so.
That's-
And other than that?
Well,
okay.
when you point on that, could you do that again, Mike, please? Where are you pointing it to? The tree? Where are you putting
Oh, I
the
was
tree?
proposing to put a tree, if we need a tree because we're more than 1,000 square feet of mitigation, so. it was-
Right, and I'm just trying to see where it is on my plan with that.
Be just to the north of the access to the top.
Okay,
That way it wouldn't be in view, that's why. I
okay.
mean, there's a couple places we could put trees that wouldn't be in view.
Right,
Yeah, you have Vermont a lot.
Mhm.
I remember this one. Isn't this one where all stacked up floats and everything? Yep. Mary remembers it.
yeah.
Okay, that was it. Those were my questions.
All right, well, let's see how much we can abuse Mike. Mario?
Seems like a relatively minor request to amend.
Mary?
I actually don't remember this.
Oh, you might
And I was
wanna
kind of
put that.
confused about what's approved, what's proposed. The dotted line then is the roof overhang, is that what that is?
The dotted line's the roof line on this application, yeah. What
The
you-
revised application?
Yeah, what you approved before is not on that.
Yeah, okay. All right, I don't have any other questions, thanks.
What I did put on here was the house that's still on the site.
The
Right,
existing
Right.
house, yeah.
No questions.
Mike?
No questions.
John?
Do you know the diameter of the buffer area that it is as proposed?
As proposed.
Yeah,
You mean,
Down
Just
by
on the-
the,
I'm
from the
just curious.
coastal bank,
This you mean?
yeah,
bless you, 12,
11.5? No,
wait a
Okay.
minute,
No,
about
that's, property
14.
line.
It goes from like 14, over in this area, it's larger than that. Am I right? Yeah, I got that right.
Yeah.
Yeah, around 14.
okay. And there's existing vegetation on the other side of it? Is that the darker green?
This darker green
That's
and the squiggly line, if you can see it, represents the edge of the
Existing, yeah.
existing.
Okay,
So the dark-
That's
anything
added to that.
Anything that's dark green is there, and the light green is lawn right now that we're gonna make
right,
Yeah.
an enhanced buffer.
right. Okay, thank you.
I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
Second.
Russell motion. Mary second.
Thanks, Mike.
Any other discussion on the board? Any discussion in the audience? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
thank you.
And I believe we had, Black Beach was continued.
Yes.
The enforcement hearing was continued, and we are not going to be voting orders of conditions this week. We're going to do that, going to do that next week.
Boom.
Wow, how is that?
So, I would, if there's any other business from anyone, if not, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Mary's
Everyone
motion,
seconded?
And pick your,
Unanimous.
Tom, Mike,
all
Russ,
those in
John,
favor?
take a look at that punch.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was,